I take us to our very first Leyland Daff against Bristol Rovers. I always remember the things I remember. First thing I remember is when the Wembley tickets first arrived. They came by courier on a motorcycle. Would you believe? Late in the evening, and we were waiting in reception. And I always remember opening the box, and the very first thing I was greeted with was the plans of Wembley Stadium where people could sit. But the very first thing was seeing the tickets marked Royal Box. And that's when it started to come home. And then it was the job of organising all the travel and everything. And I remember, I think if I remember rightly, I think we organised 103 coaches left the car park that day. We even had a special train from Liverpool Lime Street that day, and all the stewards and everything. And I found the lists the other day, and I'm meant to publish them, but I found the list of all the stewards, everyone who volunteered to steward the coaches, and I found all the names of those people and what have you. Lots of people just came forward that day. But again, Bristol Rovers, you must read that. And the two first names that come to mind with them were Carl Saunders and Big Devon White. I mean, I think they scored 30 odd goals that season for Bristol Rovers, and they'd beaten us home and away that season. We'd only literally played them several weeks earlier at home, and they'd beat us on an evening match. I think it was 2-1. So they were a bit of a hoodoo side, and you always remember Jerry Francis. So. And they totally outnumbered us as far as fan went. They'd hired a little church, I seem to remember, Bristol Rovers, to do their selling of tickets. So I think we were easily outnumbered, but we made up for it, as we were always a very noisy crowd, and we made that noise. But to see, what people will remember, I'm going to mention something now, and I'm hoping a lot of people will remember this. And on that day, you will recognize, you will understand who I was, because I was given a bright red megaphone, electronic megaphone, and I was standing at the junction where the Johnny King statue is on the road, and the queues went down the back of the cowsheds on along Borough Road, and I was with that loud hailer. I was shouting coaches 1 to 10 are boarding, coaches 10 to 17 are boarding, shouting all the instructions, and as people and when I ever spotted somebody that I knew, I was shouting people's name out, just to try to keep the camaraderie going and the jokes and stuff and what have you, with the loud hailer. But it came home to bite me, the loud hailer, because we'd organised the homecoming. And as you know, the open top tour bus comes up Borough Road. As it gets to the lights by the Pretton Park Hotel, it's just a sea of people. It's absolute mass of people. Coaches brought in. It's put up to the metal fence with Kingy and the players all top, and everybody on the side road where the clipper is. And I always remember the chairman saying to me, "Andy, could we have the megaphone?" And it was only then I realised I'd left it at home, which didn't inspire confidence. But I always remember standing, even as a member of staff, standing watching Kingy like Julius Caesar, standing on top of the bus, addressing the crowd. And then Kingy could have sat there and read out the telephone directory of Hong Kong, and he would have got a cheer for every name that he wrote out. Everyone just mesmerised by listening to his talk and his chant. He could have marshalled the troops and he could have made them walk on London if he'd have wanted to, Kingy. But little things like that for me, with the players and the families, and I think there was a second bus as well with all the media on, and this was something. You never seen anything like this at Rovers. The closest I'd come to an open top bus parade was when we lived on the Woodchurch, watching all the double-decker buses park up on a Friday night, taking everyone down. There was always 6, 7, 8 buses on the Woodchurch, taking people to the match. So to see this bus and a trophy, wow, just blew my mind. And then obviously we know the journey that we went on.
What I really enjoy about that story is the kind of it. With these games, particularly the big ones, or any game away from home, it's not just about the 90 minutes of football. It's often about the adventure that day is. And I wrote a piece recently to celebrate 25 years since the League Cup final. And a lot of that is based around the wide-eyed 9-year-old going to London for the first time to see Tranmere play. And there are so many games in the distant past which are quite similar in what you describe in having the hordes and hordes of coaches leave Prenton Park. I mean, do you remember the 2 cup games when Lorraine Rogers was chairman, where she put on the free buses?
Yes.
Bradford and Chesterfield it was. And look, they were pretty meaningless games, really.
33 coaches we took to Bradford. And the one thing, Gary, besides the fantastic win, what I do remember is listening to the Bradford fans walking past the coaches as they were all parked up. And I vividly remember this guy saying to his wife, "Why can't we do that? Why can't we do that with the coaches?" Because they were struggling themselves. But to suddenly see these coaches just constantly pouring, here comes another, and we were on both sides of the ground. The noise they made, and it's gestures and things like that. Like again, Millwall away. That was another one. That's the thing with Rovers. It is untapped. And I know we're talking about this buyout and the takeover and what have you. And I'm just hoping somebody has sat down with him and said to him, there's not just potential here. This is an untapped oil field under your feet. The people of Birkenhead and the Wirral will respond. But unfortunately, they want to see the change on the pitch first. But they are there. We know they go to Liverpool and Everton. But you can start filling that ground or the new stadium. Just invest in that team and the public of the Wirral will respond.
It's just the excitement, isn't it? I mean, how many times have you or I mean, a long time ago for me, but maybe more recently for you, boarded a coach from Prenton Park and it's the only coach going to a game and it's maybe not even full. But the excitement of being in that car park when there's genuinely so many coaches that you can't find the one you're supposed to be on. And you're trying to desperately get to the right one before it's supposed to be leaving. And it does go, and you've got those thousands of fans.
Yeah, I remember when I started going away on my own, one of the first away games was Hereford on an Audrey and Bert special. And there was only 2/3 of people on the bus. Going away to Torquay, leaving at 12 o'clock on a Friday night, travelling through the night to get there on a Saturday morning. And again, 25, 30 people on the coach. And then my first real experience of coaches like that was Nottingham Forest away in the League Cup. And I think we took 20-odd coaches. And I remember being on the motorway and you could see the coaches coming round the arc of the motorway and just thinking, my word, my God, is that Rovers fans? Now, for some clubs, that's an everyday occurrence. But for us, that was something we certainly weren't used to.
And you're so right. It shows that potential is there. Yes, sometimes you need that glory or the sniff of glory for people to come out. But, I mean, you'd rather be there with the full stand than have only the regulars who go to Prenton Park every week.
Well, the fact that we took so many coaches in that, and the fact that we put a special train on, it was only Liverpool that did specials from Lime Street, but we did. That's what we did. That was the magnitude of what people were experiencing. So everyone will have their own sort. You know, I mean, I'd like to hear somebody who'd gone on one of the specials and the trains and what they experienced in getting off at Wembley Way and doing what you'd normally see. The FA Cup final day, and we're all used to watching the television from 9 o'clock. The helicopter hovering over the hotel of both teams, and then going to Wembley Way and following the fans up and what have you. And we always remember the story Kingy told us of them being on the bus. And they picked Eddie Bishop on the way up on Wembley Way going, and they had the music full blast. It's things like that's what makes us puts us apart and different, and what makes Rovers different from your average team.
As for the game, we've gone off on a tangent again, Andy. A 2-1 victory over Bristol Rovers, a Bristol Rovers side that included future Tranmere cult hero Steve Yates. Muir and Steele with the goals, as they so often did around the turn of the late 80s, early 90s. Do you remember the joy of seeing Tranmere lift a trophy at Wembley?
Oh, well, again, I was round just to the side of the Royal Box, and it was a great position because I got to see all the flags, people hanging off the Wembley fence and stuff and what have you, and just thinking, I was so used to watching other teams on the television and everybody else having that experience and thinking, it would be nice just to do it once. What prophetic words they turned out to be once. And as you said, you know, I think there was going to be an act in Parliament to change Wembley's name or Prenton Park to Wembley too. Because as you know, a couple of seasons we went twice And before we know, we've been 5, 6, 7, and then on the playoffs. And all of a sudden, I got in my car and I just started the engine. The car just drove itself because it was that used to going down the motorway. It found its own way.